There was another one. I saw another one where it was like the two of them and AJ Styles, and they like just beat the shit out of Evan Bourne. They did like super kicks and the Meltzer driver and the Styles clash. And
well, we're live, man. We are live. Joe, kick us off.
Yo, everybody, we are live tonight. It's the Four Guys Roundtable Show. We talk about Star Wars Mandalorian Season 2. I'm going to lose my voice tonight. Can you tell? No.
Mandalorian tonight.
We're going to have a good show tonight. We'll talk some Star Wars Mandalorian. It's me, AJ, Coach Jeremy, and Darth Pat, as always, is doing something on the dark side. And his lazy ass has not showed up yet, but he will be here shortly. Or
he will be.
I'll have a lightsaber that is shoved straight up his candy ass. Yes, indeed. How is everyone doing this evening? No one's going to answer me? Jeez, say, how's everyone doing this evening?
I said thumbs up.
I'm doing great. I was trying to get
I want to hear voices. Nobody kidding.
I was trying to get our chat up so I could see that. So I just want to pop out the chat here. That way, if we have anybody join us on our live, I can see the chat and we can engage with our followers. But yes, we're
used to this little arm thingamabobber I got here. Phony.
An arm thingamabobber? Is that the technical term for it? An arm thingamabobber?
Yeah. I just name shit up. That's what I do.
So
arm thingamabobber, thingamajigs, shit like that.
So as Theo said, we are talking The Mandalorian Season 1, Season 2. It's going to be freaking awesome. As we can tell, AJ's got his the child, or better known as Grogu. And I've got my Mandalorian AT-ST walker that I built out of Legos.
Can you tell that like this is just a bunch of nerd shit with lightsabers, Grogu, and Legos? Oh, look, Darth Pat has decided to join us. Dude,
I was thinking,
should I let him in this chat right now? I'm wondering.
I was waiting for you to come up with a lightsaber, and the set comes with Cara Dune, and of course the Mandalorian.
Sweet.
But the weird thing is because when this thing came out, the Mandalorian hadn't seen his face, so he has no face. He's just a black head, which is kind of funny.
Thanks for joining us, Pat.
Blackhead. Blackheads, those are disgusting.
Yes, they are. Don't make my AT-ST shoot you.
We're all going to do the pew pew stuff tonight. This will be sweet.
Yeah, are you the only person that doesn't have a prop?
There's the perfect prop.
That is his way of saying
the biggest Star Wars nerd of all of us, and he doesn't have a prop.
I suppose I could always grab my dad's Baby Yoda doll, but
I was wondering what he was going to say. I guess I can grab I was like, uh-oh.
Well, he could grab
his lightsaber.
We talked about that.
Oh my goodness. It could have been I'm going to grab my lightsaber. That works. That works.
That's better. I'll accept that.
Yeah, at least it's Star Wars. That works. So, yeah, we're talking Mandalorian Season 1, Season 2. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of our podcast, we always got to start off with some stories. Who's got a good story from this week? Did anything happen to anybody this week from the last week?
Snow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some of you got lots of snow.
Wow,
Yes.
What's that? I'm not really sure what snow is these days.
Yeah, I hate you right now, Joe.
We got excessive amounts of snow, and let me take it from here. So the guy that we had, our snowblower's been unreliable for a while, and it's basically not working really at all right now. You start trying to put it through just like the tiniest bit of snow, and it clogs instantly. So my parents are arguing about whether or not to have it fixed because of the high probability. All right, can we start over? I mean, can we just start recording over?
No,
It's live.
Oh, we're live.
We're
There
not
is no
doing that,
starting
buddy.
over.
Sid Vicious, it's live. We can't start all over.
Fuck it.
I
We'll
mean,
do it live. I'm right. We'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
maybe it was clogged. I mean, you need some, magnesium or something. I don't know.
Anyway, now that I got the Bill O'Reilly reference out of the way. So I mean, anyway, my parents are debating whether or not to bother fixing it because hopefully they'll be selling the house sometime in the next year or so. Anywho, so we had a guy plow us out the last few years. For whatever reason, he decided not to return my dad's phone call this year, and my dad and I have a theory about that, but it gets into a subject which we do not touch upon on this show. So we shall just
okay.
we shall just move on. So anyway, we got a new plow guy. My sister helped us get us in touch with a new plow guy. So he came on Monday while it was still snowing, because it pretty much snowed really nonstop for over 48 hours. But anyway, so he came because I guess with how much it was going to do, he was trying to probably do everybody like 2 or 3 times or whatever. So he came Monday afternoon, and I'm like at our kitchen table working, remotely and everything. And all of a sudden I hear this crash. And I go, Dad, did our garage door just get broken? And yes, it did. There was a patch of ice in the very front of our driveway, right in front of our garage doors, which by this point, of course, was covered in snow. That had been left over from when we got like a little bit of an ice storm, the week before. So he didn't know it was there. He couldn't see in anything. So he skidded on it and crashed into my garage door.
I thought you were going to say it was a harpooned ice through the snow blower right into your garage door. That would have been cooler. But go ahead. I like the story anyway.
He definitely went right through it. So the door's damaged. It won't open. It's got to be replaced and everything. So that was that. He comes back on Tuesday afternoon, and he started to plow up at the top of our driveway, but he didn't get very far because of how thick it still was. But he said, he'd be back later. He'd be back with somebody to help him and all this because he came to our door, of course, after he hit the garage door, and he felt really bad about it, obviously, and everything. So.
Mm-hmm.
So he plowed what he could, I guess, and then he backed up and he left. And then he actually didn't come back till about 10 o'clock at night. But he did bring somebody else with a snowblower of their own, and they did do the whole driveway and everything. But when he backed out of our driveway,
this doesn't sound like it's going to be.
What the hell did he do? What did this guy do to your house? Like, just
this time it wasn't our house, because about an hour after he left, our neighbor from across the road called and asked to talk to my dad. And apparently when he backed out, he took out their mailbox. And as I found out when we went to go take the garbage up later that night, because our garbage pickup, which is normally, on Monday, was delayed by 2 days because of the snow. He also basically took out our mailbox. And my dad, I guess, has since investigated a little bit further and has said that the whole kind of piece of wood and stand and everything that basically holds our mailbox and both neighbors across the street's mailbox, basically the whole thing's got to be replaced.
Oh boy. Well, that's why businesses have liability insurance.
Yeah, so
that guy can't drive.
It was an interesting couple of days there. And then this is unrelated, but it's just kind of funny, I guess. So and then we had a bitch of a time getting my car out of the garage, Kate turning it out and shit on Wednesday. So I was working remotely for 3 days. Went back to the office last 2 days, but at work, our work server was running very slowly yesterday. So we tried to restart it a couple of times to get it, to cooperate, and still wasn't really doing so. So I had spending a fair amount of time at work yesterday, unfortunately, just sitting there looking at my computer screen, contemplating doing work, but couldn't actually do anything.
Contemplating. I like that.
So
thought
today,
about doing it.
Yeah, basically.
So Darth Pat's boss, if you're out there and you listen to this, contemplating doing work.
Darth Pat's boss was well aware of this, so it's not like he could do. It's not like he could really do any work either. But here's the thing: I actually was doing work. I was doing some stuff that I could do without having to be on our server, but it was not optimal. But anyway, I went into the office for a little while this morning, and not only was our server still not working, but in the office, our internet wasn't even working.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So I did a little bit more work to finish where I was yesterday. Then I was like, all right, I really can't do anything here now without the internet at this point. So I might as well go home, which is what I did. And getting email updates throughout the day that our server's still being worked on. Our IT people actually had to come into the office to work on it. Then there was something about we're going to be temporarily moving to a cloud server for the time being. Then an hour after we got that email, we got another email saying, no, that's not actually going to happen either. And that they have to rebuild the entire fucking server.
Nice.
And it's like, what are
that's
they,
bad.
where are they doing this tomorrow when it's supposed to snow another 3 to 5 inches, for Christ's sake?
Yep.
Oh yeah, you guys are getting more snow then, aren't you?
It's like, so I brought my computer home with me just in case, again, I can't get out of my driveway on Monday morning. And now it's like, even if I can't get out of my driveway and get to the office, am I gonna have stupid computer screens? Am I gonna have the ability to work? So it's been a weird week.
You know what?
Plus, somebody had a birthday this week too. I wonder which.
Yes, I turned 39 again.
Yeah, you're such full of shit. 39 my ass.
Well, anybody who's a classic Hollywood fan out there and knows Jack Benny, the old Jack Benny joke was that he was always 39. So
yeah,
you're 40 now.
When I turned 39 last year, I said, well, I'm going to run. I think I'll just run with that. So,
there was a guy I worked with. Long. There was a guy I worked with. Now he was a little different than Darth Pat because he was gay. So, and he was on the feminine side. So he always used to say he was turning 30 again, even though he was like my age. So,
I'm in touch with my feminine side, but
we know that.
That's enough, Pat. We don't need to hear any more.
We don't want to. Yeah, we don't want to know how much in touch you're in. We know you're in touch, though.
We don't need to scare anybody away, Pat.
I have a feeling he listens to that song "I Touch Myself" quite often.
What was that old song where it was "I'm too sexy for my shirt"? What was the person who sang that?
Oh, Right Said Fred. Right Said Fred.
But he was gay.
Wasn't he gay though?
Pat,
I have no idea if
on your playlist.
Of course, you
Come
know
on
that.
now.
You would know.
It's on his playlist. I know it is.
I just remember reading stuff like that. But anyway, what I was trying to say was,
this show always goes sideways.
I thought it was my job to scare away people.
Well, maybe.
Technically speaking, yes.
Technically speaking,
to a point.
Just remember, you got to remember to bring your Gorilla McBischoff. Okay, we need that Gorilla McBischoffness every episode.
I was under the impression that I was still scaring my 4-year-old niece until they called me on my birthday because, my sister trying to corral 4 children in between ages 2 and 9 for a Zoom call is bad enough.
Use hog time.
Yeah, well, that's easier said than done. Trust me, those kids are slippery. But apparently, after we ended the call, she was so upset that she didn't show me this like craft thing that they had worked on during the day that she made my sister call me back just so she could show it to me. So I guess I don't scare her anymore. So
that's what they do.
I'll have to figure out a new way to scare her.
Why would you want to do that to her?
Yeah,
a joke.
Why would you do that to a poor little niece of yours?
He wants to be like my uncle. See, I have an Uncle Dean, and he was always the guy that had to scare all the kids. Like he had to be the big scary guy, even though he's a giant teddy bear. He always tried to be the scary guy. It wasn't until you got old enough to realize that he was just a big teddy bear. But yeah, he was that guy. I tried to do that for a little while. I didn't really like it because I do have a niece that until like recently wouldn't give me hugs. I was kind of distraught about that. I was like, all I want is a hug. Like I'm not gonna bother you. Like just give me a hug. That's all I want. Just give me a hug. God damn it. Just hug me.
I don't know if that would bother me since I love kids so much. I don't know if that would bother me if
You love your nephews. Don't give me that shit. Like, I know you love your nephews. They might drive you a little goofy, but you love them.
There's about 10 kids that in my whole life that are fine. The rest of them
10 kids.
Right.
I mean, I also kind of remember the first time that I met Jeremy's daughter when I went over to his house. I remember she was at the door. She kind of looked up at me. She got all kind of like wide-eyed, and she was just like,
well, we tried to explain to her that you were the Big Show. So
yeah, she was all like, who are you?
Well, it's something just to give everybody that's listening and watching a little clarification here. You got to remember, I'm 5'8", and okay,
you're good.
Shut up. So I'm 5'8", and my daughter's used to seeing normal sized human beings.
Yeah,
and then you have
Jeremy's 5'8", 5'6" in shoes.
Yes. And then you have the Big Show, or Darth Pat, come over. We sometimes call him the Big Show. If you haven't seen the Big Show wrestle, just take a picture. You can see it. Go look for a picture.
Close enough.
Probably get it the idea. So Darth Pat walks in, knocks on the door, opens up the door, and here's this 6'4", 200 and some big dude.
Wow, that's being very generous.
Well, I don't know how much you actually
200 pounds of sexiness just standing at the door.
So she goes
really
from
good.
seeing a normal sized guy to a giant. Yeah, that's kind of disturbing and scary.
Pat when it really comes down to it, Pat is a big teddy bear too. So
yeah, he is. He isn't scary worth shit.
No, I'm afraid of my own shadow. Like if I was out there in Punxsutawney on Tuesday, I would have definitely been saying, "Oh God, it's my shadow." 6 more weeks.
That's why. Like when I moved there, Pat was one of my first friends, and I'm like, yeah, if I ever get in a fight in a bar, I need more friends besides Pat. So
don't hit me. This
Oh
would be
my
Pat
God.
if a fight broke out.
So then I stumbled across Joe and eventually you, Jeremy, and then I felt much better. In fact,
Yeah, but
I don't know if that's how I'd act if an actual fight broke out. I really don't have much of an
I know,
idea.
Pat. I'm just messing with you. I'm the cheap shotter. I would be hitting people in the nuts. So,
Well,
Turning his head and hitting for the nuts.
Sometimes you just got to do what works.
Oh,
I'd be
my
the
God.
one trying to DDT somebody in a fight.
And see, here's my thing. Like,
You be going for the RKO.
Oh yeah.
as much as I would love to say I'd be great in a fight, honestly, I've only gotten into fights when I was kids.
Me too.
When I was a kid, and that was with a bully that we had in our neighborhood, and I never fought back until one time, and then that was over. But I would hold my own, but I'm sure I would get my ass whooped if somebody was in a bar fight with me. I'm sure.
Yeah, but you're very seemingly strong, Jeremy. You don't look nearly as strong as you actually are. So people might misjudge you on that one. So I would be the one in the fight. All 4 of us would be fighting, and I would stun somebody and stop and be like, "Stunner!"
Be yelling it out like a goddamn announcer.
And that would be the time that everyone would be fighting and would stop and like, oh shit, he actually gave him the stunner. And,
and then
the fight would probably be over at that point because we were laughing at someone giving somebody a stunner.
Then we would get back to Channel McBischoff finally. He'd be like, "Stunner!"
Oh my God.
That would be funny. Like all of a sudden it broke into a fight and Darth Pat goes into his announcing mode and starts calling out moves as they happen.
Well, I mean, I would have always suspected. Well, I mean, we're talking about what moves we'd be doing here and everything. I mean, you're talking about giving stunners. I mean, with you, I would assume it would just be RKOs out of nowhere.
I could go for an RKO out of nowhere.
Oh my God.
So
you could go for an RKO out of nowhere.
Yes,
he did.
If only somebody was actually there behind.
I know, it'd be awesome.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, too bad I'm not there because I would totally do it.
No, you would.
So before we jump into it, just because we just did the live podcast, and because a couple months ago on a podcast, I was like saying how much Dave Meltzer's always right, and now he's dropped his ratings for the Royal Rumble, and I'm scratching my head again. Somehow,
yes, I want to hear this.
Somehow Goldberg and McIntyre got a 2. Not a dud, not a negative. He gave them a 2.
It must have had to do with significance of the match or something like that. That's the only thing I can think of.
And
He didn't want to give McIntyre a bad match because he was in the ring with Goldberg.
and guys, we watched that show.
Yes, we did.
We did.
The men's Royal Rumble was not the best match on that card, and he gave them the best rating of all the matches. He gave it 4.25.
No, I definitely would say the men's Royal Rumble was
Wait.
a 4.25.
4.25?
Yes.
And he gave Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens a 4. So I would have still given that a higher score, even with the botch finish.
You know why?
I mean, I because that finish was so horrible. And all right, drifting back to Cornette here, because he did a review of the whole show and he was pretty negative about most of it, and some of his things I was really just like, well, now I was really at the point where I was just going, well, now he's really just looking for shit. But there was a couple of things that he said which I thought did have merit in their criticism.
Mm-hmm.
One of which was, what match did not spend a significant amount of time outside the ring? I mean,
Sasha Carmella.
Yeah, but every other match did, including
the women's match and the pre-show didn't either.
But let's not count that for right now.
Okay.
But it's like, you don't need to constantly go outside of the ring, even in a last man standing match. And I don't know if this is just like a byproduct of the whole no crowd and every other damn thing, but it does become a little on the repetitive side. And it's like Roman and Owens should be able to put on a good match, even with that stipulation, without having to leave the ring to do it. I liked that match, other than the finish. But again, it's like I still think they could have found a different way to do it too. I think they're falling into certain, not necessarily spots, but premises, I guess, kind of over and over again. And I think they need to work on that.
I saw a meme. I told Joe I saw a meme, and it was Paul and Roman with the handcuffs, and Kevin Owens was having a picnic with the referee. That's the meme I saw.
Anytime now, boys. We're just gonna have a picnic.
Like, enjoy your lunch. We have all day. And the other significant thing I saw about this Royal Rumble that disturbed me, the average age in this Royal Rumble, this was the oldest Royal Rumble by far. The average, there was 2 people under the age of 30 in this Royal Rumble.
Wow.
You're talking the men's Royal Rumble match?
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of the guys were 40 or over.
Wow,
that's nuts.
Yeah, because obviously, you got some older guys like Edge, like Orton.
Yeah.
Kane coming back doesn't really help out.
Under the age of, I think under the age of 33, maybe 5 people were under the age of 33 even.
That's crazy.
Well, that's interesting then, because that means that there's a lot of guys who really haven't been on TV for a significant amount of time, who are older than you think they are.
Yeah. Damian Priest is 38. I did not know that. I thought he was like 31 or 32.
Okay. Damn. Yeah, he does not look 38. Yes. I would have been shocked if, I'm kind of shocked that you say that.
By the way, Jeremy, speaking of Damian Priest real quick, that was my other friends that were listening on that. I was like, Jeremy made me very happy that night when he's like, I don't like this guy already. I'm like, he sounded like me. He channeled his vintage AJ Nitro there. So
I just I don't know if age necessarily matters as much as whether or not they can still go, because AJ Styles is how old?
43.
Yeah, he's up there a little bit.
He can still
go.
My
age.
He certainly can still go. He's the Shawn Michaels now.
Yeah, he's the exception to the rule sometimes.
Well, he just doesn't really show signs of like noticeably slowing down. Neither does Randy Orton, for that matter.
And this is not a plug, but that's because of DDP Yoga.
No. It's DDPY.
Orton also did nothing in the match, so he did nothing. He disappeared and did nothing.
I mean, that's true, but I'm just speaking generally there. I mean, it's like, so I don't know if like the age thing necessarily matters. You know, like Indiana Jones once said, it ain't the years, it's the mileage. You know, so it's depends upon how healthy they are and how long they can go. But I guess in a lot of ways that does show that they don't really get these guys at young ages anymore. I mean, think of how young guys like the Hardy Boys or Shawn Michaels or Randy Orton and John Cena were when they when they like really first became stars and everything. So
well, that's because guys are making a living in the independent scene where most people weren't able to do that. They had to go to it was WWE or TNA, and the indie scenes didn't pay enough for people to really make a living, so they had to come early and try and get a spot. Where now the indie scenes, depending on where you go, you can make a good living on the indie scene, which is crazy, but the money's there now where it wasn't always there.
A lot
wasn't always there on the big promotions either.
A lot of them do their own merchandise now, though, and stuff. So
and you can make a ton of money on merchandise.
There's all that third party stuff out there too, like the Cameo and all that stuff, like the stuff that WWE, of course, is trying to crack down their own talent on. But like the money was out there on the independent scene. I don't know that it's going to be again. I mean, that's going to be something that long-term effects of the pandemic are going to be kind of interesting to keep an eye out on. And I mean, if WWE doesn't really go back to like a full touring schedule, if they don't go back to doing your regular televised house shows and everything, it'll be interesting to see if indies do. Because the question will be then, like, is there going to be a demand for it? That'll be something. That's something we don't really know the answer to now. That's something that we won't know the answer to for probably at least 6 months, if not longer. But it will be very interesting to monitor.
So, Joe, I'm assuming you've seen this guy. Jeremy or Pat, have you seen the next Brock Lesnar guy, this jacked up football player guy? Have you seen this guy yet or not?
What's his name?
If you say his name, it might ring
Peter Boudreaux. Or Bordeaux, Boudreaux.
I've heard the name. I haven't seen him.
No, if I send this picture, can you like screen share it? If I send this picture to everybody.
Oh, just to say, you said what's his name? Peter what?
But Jeremy just do it on his thing. It's easier. He just pull it up and screen share it.
It's Parker Boudreaux. He's jacked as fuck. He played football at Central Florida, and he's at the WWE Performance Center right now.
The question is, how do you spell his last name?
Boudreaux.
Boudreaux.
There's a picture of him with Eva Marie that's been circulating. So
they must be dating then, I guess, right?
He looks like a more jacked Brock Lesnar.
He definitely is.
Yeah, let me find a good pic here of this guy. Like here,
obviously Brock had the amateur background. This guy's a football player, but if they can turn this guy into a machine,
just try not to imitate too much.
If I see a video of this guy doing a shooting star, I'm gonna be like, "Holy shit!"
I don't think they'll be having him do shooting stars anymore.
Probably not.
We were like, so on the other podcast. We were talking about Brock Lesnar and we were arguing about him because like Eli thinks he's garbage. And I tried to like Zach and Jay never saw him like back in 2002, 2003. So I was trying to put it in perspective for them. I'm like, Zach, just pretend you've never really seen this guy before. And then this video pops up of him doing a shooting star and you love wrestling. You're going to be like, holy shit, that is really cool. Maybe I'm going to invest in this guy, which is exactly what happened with me and Joe, I'm sure. So nice. Because they didn't watch him back then. Yeah, there he is.
So here's this thing. We got Brock Lesnar and we got Boudreaux next to him. So yeah, that's quite impressive. That's kind of crazy.
If they can teach this guy to wrestle and stuff, then there could be something special coming again.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll have to wait and see on that one. You just never know.
It's a work in progress.
Because obviously Brock, the last 5 or 6 years, Brock then isn't the same thing as Brock in 2002, 2004. That was a completely different Brock Lesnar back then who, burst on the scene and was doing everything amazing, So it's just we can go to our main topic. I didn't know if you guys had seen that guy before. I knew Joe had, and he's definitely pretty jacked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're 30 minutes into deep of talking about some random ass shit off topic. I'll tell you that much.
And this
Sorry,
is the
guys.
way
This is what we do a lot on
This
the
is
show.
what we do.
This shit happens.
This is the way.
We had one or
This
two
is.
podcasts called "I've Got Nothing."
Well, and here's
is
the
the
good
way.
thing is once we get on topic, you can't get us off of the topic. So
Facts.
especially Darth Pat, he likes to really tell a good story.
So get your popcorn and your pillows out because you're going to need both.
Don't be trying to put your dark force powers on me there, Darth Pat. All right. So yes, let's get into the meat and potatoes of our podcast, which is the Mandalorian season 1, season 2 recap. We had actually done a podcast on this. We had recorded season 1, what we were talked about.
We were about 3 episodes into season 2 when we recorded the first time.
And me being the dumbass that I am, it got deleted. So we decided
we can vouch
It
for that.
happens.
yes.
Jesus.
So we decided, what the hey, let's do a live episode 25. Because guess what, folks? It is officially episode 25 of our show, which is pretty damn impressive because when we started doing this, I was a little concerned we might not get past 10 episodes, but we did. And hey, it's episode 25.
Halfway to
Mandalorian recap. Hey, I plan on doing something special when we get to 100. We're gonna get to 100 episodes and hopefully way beyond that. But
We're gonna sneak into Pat's bedroom and put 15 posters on his ceiling.
that will not be happening.
Yeah.
I don't want to know what else is in Pat's room.
No bueno.
Well, I'm really hoping that by the time we get to episode 100, I have different living quarters.
Okay, well then we can sneak into your apartment or house and do worse things potentially.
Yes.
No, I'm going to have an attack dog.
Well, maybe episode 100 will have to be where we're all actually in the same room at the same time and do a live episode from, my
From Pat's
house
new
or Darth
place.
Pat's
From
apartment,
Pat's new
whatever.
place.
Yeah.
The beach.
So we'll see.
Yeah, so like if we go off the air for like 5 months because it takes that long for all of us to get in the same location again. Well, that'll just have to be the way.
Yes. All
No
right.
way.
So I'm gonna put
No
yes.
way.
It'll have to be the way.
Oh
and for anybody who's never watched The Mandalorian, you have to watch it to understand that little line.
Well, there's also a wrestling fashion called The Way now too. So
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
But anyways, all right. So
No,
I'm gonna
that
throw-
doesn't work.
I'm gonna throw a question out there, and I just need a one word reply. Mandalorian, first thought, first word that comes to your mind. Joe.
Why you gotta pick me first?
Because I saw you playing with your beard. I was like, I know he's thinking I'm gonna get him.
Damn.
like being in school and you're like, please don't call on me. I was like,
I know. I did my best not to get called first. It didn't always happen.
please don't make me go to the chalkboard, damn it.
Well, it was epic for me. It was epic. It was new. It was definitely some written totally different, film totally different than the actual movies. To me, it was like a live action version of kind of the way Rebels and Star Wars Clones was written for the animated series.
Okay.
I felt like the way the tone and stuff in the animated series was brought to life in the Mandalorian itself, and that was really awesome to me. Plus, seeing the little green guy at the end of first episode 1 was like, what the fuck?
All right, Darth Pat, one word.
Unexpected.
Okay. Unexpected.
And
Go ahead.
yeah, what I really mean by that is a few things. Now, I remember right before episode 1, season 1 dropped, I saw a couple internet
Blurb.
What?
I said blurbs about something that special was going to happen.
Right. It said that there was going to be an absolute game-changing event, universe, Star Wars universe-changing event that would happen in the first 5 minutes of the show.
Like the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was like, first 5 minutes of the show went by. I'm like, well, that was a pretty cool opening and introduction scene. Reminded me of some like Clint Eastwood, Western movies and everything. I don't think there was anything universe changing in this. Then, of course, you get to the end of the episode, and then, there's the little green guy.
AJ.
A little green guy.
The little green guy.
There
Who
we
AJ has.
That was your cue.
Yeah. AJ. One more.
So and just I didn't really know what to expect out of a Star
He's
Wars.
not done yet, Jeremy.
I see that.
I didn't know what to I didn't really know what they
It
would
takes
do
them a while.
or how they would go with a Star Wars television series. So it was definitely different. So in a good way. In a good way.
Absolutely. All right. AJ, one word.
Invested. I was very invested out of the gate. Like invested and engrossed in that series. I couldn't wait for the episode every week. So I was completely invested in it.
So my word is more of a sound effect with some visuals. Mine was
Your mind was blown.
my mind was blown with just and anybody that's watched it like we watched every episode as they came out. Sometimes I missed a week and had to watch 2 episodes a week, but it was if you're a Star Wars fan, like an honest Star Wars fan that just loves Star Wars, doesn't fucking nitpick at the shit, and it's so critical about everything that they do, just really love Star Wars, there's no way you don't enjoy that series. And to know what's possibly coming with the other series that are going to kind of tie into that same time frame and all that shit, it's just gonna be, what's coming from Disney Plus besides what we've seen with The Mandalorian is gonna be fucking awesome. So yes, my mind was blown. All right, so we know episode 1, the first, it doesn't take, it gets to the end of the episode before the big reveal happens, and we see the child, as it's referred to, which AJ has there. He's got his child, or the child, which we now know is Grogu, which we didn't know.
Just like him.
Looks just like him. Must be the bald head.
Where's your bald head, Jeremy?
I just did it today too.
Yeah, that's what you said. That's why I was expecting you to not have a hat on, because you were like freshly shaved.
Yes, I cleaned up a little bit. I'm trying to grow the beard out. I don't know how well it's going to look. Eventually, maybe it'll look good. Anyways,
it's probably not going to get to Joe's.
No, definitely, probably never. Joe's is kind of curls. It kind of has does.
It does.
Like a shelf comes out. It's kind of interesting.
It legit kind of like curls up a little bit. I have to brush it. Yeah, it curls. Don't know. It's the way it goes.
But you have that episode, you have the flashbacks that happen to him every so often where he's kind of remembering his childhood. We learn that he was not born a Mandalorian. He was actually adopted by the Mandalorian clan, so I guess a clan within the Mandalorians, and raised to be a Mandalorian. But evidently we find out later on, and we can talk about this more, but we later on find out that he was raised by a very strict faction or clan within the Mandalorians that were under the impression that you should never ever remove your mask. Hence why when this figure was made, he has no face. So
that's awesome
for Legos. So it's interesting how from beginning of season 1 to the end of season 2, which we'll go into some of the episodes in that, how much this evolves, even when some of the episodes were like, this didn't really have like move the story essentially forward. It was more like a backstory or a side story, but it always kept on track. It never stayed stagnant for
more than a week.
More than one episode. And even the episode that wasn't necessarily moving the story forward, maybe he just went to another place and met another person. It was significant because they always went back at some point in time to tie that back into a newer episode later, whether it was in season 1 or it came around to season 2. Like him meeting Cara Dune, which I was very impressed, I must say, by her acting skills. And I cannot remember the name of the lady.
Gina Carano.
Gina Carano, thank you. I was pretty impressed. I mean, she's been in other things. I think she was in the Fast and Furious, one of the Fast and Furious movies.
Yes, she was.
Yep.
So
she was in Deadpool.
She was in Deadpool. Okay. See, I didn't see the original Deadpool. I've never actually seen that one. I saw Deadpool 2. I don't know how I got to see the second one and not the first one.
Lord, you're going backwards, man.
But that was
God. What is wrong with you?
I probably wouldn't have seen the second one either if it wouldn't have been for the fact that I was in a hotel and they have cable there, so I was watching that on one of their cable stations.
You would think you'd watch the second one and say, "Oh my God, this movie's fucking awesome! I need to go back and watch the first one." I
do, but I gotta find it first. I don't pay for stuff usually, so I'm pretty cheap that way. If
how do you watch the Mandalorian?
Well, we don't pay to buy extras, like whatever we get for free through our streaming. Okay. What we ever pay for through our streaming, that's what we go. I don't buy extras, so and Redbox doesn't really exist anymore. So
until he just said there, I was in a hotel room and was watching the cable. Before he said, I don't pay for things extra, I was gonna make some kind of crack about how he was in a hotel room and how he was watching cable as opposed to something else.
That's extra.
That's extra.
He's not paying extra.
I don't want that to show up.
When he went and said that, I'm like, oh, okay, that answers.
Yeah, I'm not putting that on the bill anyways, even if that stuff's expensive at a hotel, I think.
You can get this shit free on your phone anyway.
Yeah, please. I know. So I'll let somebody else talk a little bit, but let's kind of go through the episodes and some of the significant things that happened. Let's just keep it with season 1 right now. So we had episode 1, the big drop was the child. Episode 2, man, I have to go back and watch it. I can't remember some of the things that happened.
This is where
in the
Pat
episode.
comes in.
Yes, Darth Pat, help us out with a little bit of season with episode 2, season 1. Was there anything significant that we should probably talk about that happened in that episode?
Yeah, history, man. Let's go.
Episode 2, season 1, or let's just call it chapter 2, the child. That's when he finds he after he's saved the child, if you will, from IG-11, killing it. He's taking him back to the ship. The Jawas are ransacking his ship, so then he pursues them. The Ugnaught Kuil, who's voiced by Nick Nolte, there we go. Kind of helps him and everything. He brokers the deal with the Jawa to go kill that Mudhorn creature. And it's like the Mudhorn's about to kill him when all of a sudden the Mudhorn starts floating in air.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Worst powers unleashed.
Because the child is using his magic. And that's basically the gist of that episode. Then he gets what the Jawas want, which was like the egg of the thing, which it looked almost like a giant Cadbury cream egg, only it wasn't covered in chocolate. But he gets the parts back from the Jawa stole from him. They repair the ship and he leaves the planet. The other
so nothing significant except for the fact that the child uses his force powers.
It reveals the child's powers. One thing that I just want to point out about that episode, because I found it funny, I guess. If you recall back to the scene on the Star Destroyer in The Empire Strikes Back, when Darth Vader is addressing all the various bounty hunters who were there, and he says to Boba Fett, no disintegration. When he first catches up to the Jawas and everything, he's shooting that one gun that he has at them, and it is disintegrating those Jawas. So
that was awesome. By the way,
that's just I guess what you could kind of consider an original trilogy tie-in the sense that that's what it means for somebody who's like Mandalorian to disintegrate an adversary. All of a sudden just poof, they're gone.
Yes,
that was a cool new twist of people disintegrating, not just being shot and falling over.
Yeah. And there was a cool thing that I enjoyed was in season 1, is he kept on getting pieces of metal, which was, I think, Vespar. Was how it was? Is how Bespar. Beskar.
Yeah.
Yes. And I thought that was pretty cool because he'd always go as he got back to the planet that he was on and back to, his clan. The blacksmith, I guess you could call it, that person, would make him a new piece that would go on a new piece of Beskar armor that would go on his thing, which is pretty awesome because we find out that lightsabers can't even cut through that shit, which is pretty crazy. So,
yes, it is, which is cool. It's a good aspect to it, which ties into other stories and different animes and books and stuff like that.
Yeah, very much so. So what was what else in season 1? Because I'm just having a hard time remembering season 1. What were some of the other things like that happened?
The gist of season 1, really. I mean, we meet him. We find out he doesn't take his mask off. The story about him getting the medals, the bounty hunter. We find out that he was rescued, but it was during the Battle of the Purge. Was that the right?
Mm-hmm, yeah, Battle of the Purge. Yeah.
So, that's when it happens. You get to meet, other bounty hunters that are after him because he has the child. He gets some backstory in regards to the child a little bit. It's more or less really more about him in general for mostly the first season, and a little bits and pieces in regards to,
characters
him.
that he's gonna like. Carl Weathers' character, like he, obviously runs across him multiple times.
You kind of see that he kind of has a heart too. Like he's a bounty hunter, but like he cares. Like where he meets Cara Dune, like he goes out and he helps that village who's being overrun and stuff like that. So there's a lot of aspects in regards to that too. And
I think that when he gets the child, I think that's when he starts to care. Like he starts to that's I think the whole part of that is. I think it took 3 episodes or whatever in season 1 for us to see him start to understand what's going on and the responsibility he has with the child. So
I think the other thing too is like this takes place 5-6 years after Return of the Jedi, so you're kind of seeing what the universe is kind of like after the fact, and there's still bad guys, Imperial people and things of that nature. So you kind of like start seeing a little bit more of that. And there's just hints of clues being dropped. They want to test Baby Yoda. Why you want to test Baby Yoda for? What are you trying to do? And it's like small hints in each episode. It just keeps building up. We
got to see him do
answers.
We got to see him do some like cool stuff with like his weapons and stuff. We got to see stuff that we never saw like Boba Fett do, or we got to see some cool stuff in that like episode where he goes off with that gang and they're on that ship and they all kind of turn on him. And he has to end up getting, killing all of them. That episode was interesting because you got to see him do cool stuff that we didn't see Boba Fett enough to see Boba Fett like really do a lot of cool stuff. We get to see a lot of different cool stuff from him.
And the thing too is like when he's trying to, escape from the city or the town with Baby Yoda. And his fellow Mandalorians, come out to, help him out and have the jetpacks on and bad. I like the dudes with the big guns. And the big gunner guy goes out, starts wreaking havoc because they're the ones always like wreak havoc and destroy shit. That's the part of stuff I like.
That's Theo. If Theo was going to be in a movie, he's like, give me a big gun and just let me blow up shit.
Let me just destroy shit. That's all I want to do. So, it's that cool part and seeing them like come together to help a fellow man, get out, even though if they don't really agree with what he's doing right now, things like that. There's a lot of different aspects, and I think some of the filler episodes, and even in season 2, you have some filler episodes that really don't mean that much, like to a normal person watching it. But those filler episodes kind of bring aspects of different part of the universe in to kind of, some people get it and some people are diehard fans will understand. Oh, they'll like drop something or show something or just bringing something in to connect it from a movie or a previous book or the animated show or something like that.
There was the scientist, and we know the scientist was doing cloning stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and that ties into a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah. And it was interesting because they did tie in the Caminos with the whole cloning thing. You saw that more in episode not episode 2, in season 2, you saw more of that. You kind of just get a hint as to what they might be trying to do with the child's blood and DNA and stuff like that. And I think that's part of the season 1 where what I thought was really cool is he just doesn't hand the child over and say, well, fuck it, my job's done. He's like, what is your plan for this child? You know, what do you plan on doing? And when he realizes like what they're going to do, like they're actually going to kill this little kid who's completely innocent, even though he has no idea how old the child is, which we now know is 50 fucking years old.
Pretty much.
It is the size of a 2-year-old toddler. You know, he immediately says that this is not right. Like by no means is this right. And puts his own life on the line to save and try and find this child a home, which in season 2, we're going to talk about probably one of the coolest fucking scenes ever.
There's a couple
in this whole entire series so far. But yeah, I really liked season 1. When it came down to it, season 1 was really good. I mean, you got Gina Carano's character, Cara Dune, who's a pretty badass. You find out she was a former Republic soldier, because she's that tattoo that she has, which is very identifiable, and like Imperials better not see it. You learn that multiple times. Like, got to cover that tattoo. If the Imperials see it, you know, it could cause trouble. We also get to meet Bill Burr's character for the first time in season 1, when they go on the ship. And I think this is what you were talking about with the guys that turn on him. I thought that was pretty cool. The funny thing is Bill Burr, being from Boston, has a huge, very thick Boston accent, or New England accent, whatever you want to call it. And it's funny that they didn't tell him to try and cover it up, try and speak without your accent because you're in space. They're just like, well, this is the way he speaks, so just go with it.
Who cares? It's like a huge universe. What the hell? How will we know if someone doesn't speak like that in a universe like that?
Exactly. But it was interesting to me because like I've seen his stand-up, which is really, I love his stand-up. I think it's really good. So I just was like, okay, how are they going to do this? And the first time you hear him speak, I'm like, okay, that's what they did. So, there was a lot of cameos. Darth Pat, help us out with some of the cameos that people may not know unless you really were paying attention, because I didn't catch them because most of the guys were in makeup and I had no idea because it was such good makeup.
Okay, well, let me just clarify. When you say cameos, do you mean
here we go.
actors or characters?
Like actors within the thing, whether they were in makeup, no makeup, did a voice.
Okay. Well, like I mentioned, like, you know, Nick Nolte was the voice of Kuiil. Obviously, Carl Weathers, who most people probably know from the Rocky movies and Predator and Happy Gilmore, was Grief Karga, his agent, if you will, at first, and then, guy is basically kind of like leading the planet of Navarro. Werner Herzog, who's fairly legendary film director and occasional actor, was the client. He was the guy who was like really tasking him to bring in the child, but as we find out, of course, is not the main villain. The main villain, of course, is Moff Gideon, who's played by Giancarlo Esposito, who's also got a very long resume from Do the Right Thing to Breaking Bad. We mentioned Gina Carano. Taika Waititi, who's the guy who directed Thor Ragnarok, and also directed 1 or 2 episodes of this show. He was the voice of IG-11.
Okay.
He's also the guy who did the movie Jojo Rabbit last year, where he also played the humorous version of Adolf Hitler, if you want to say that. Amy Sedaris, who's a longtime comedian. She was Peli Motto, who was the mechanic at Mos Eisley. So she appeared in both seasons. Ming-Na Wen, who people would probably know from like the Joey Luck Club or ER, or the voice of Milan in the animated version. She was Fennec Shand, so she's been in both seasons. You mentioned Bill Burr, and 2 of the people with Bill Burr. There was the Twi'lek woman, Zeon. She was played by Natalia Tena, who was in both several Harry Potter movies, and she was also in Game of Thrones. She was the Twi'lek woman, and then there was the Devoran character Berg. He was the big guy with the horns. He's played by Clancy Brown, who's again been a character actor who's been around for a very long time. He was in the Shawshank Redemption. He was the voice of Lex Luthor and on Superman the animated series and Justice League. The Hurricane. He's been in a ton of stuff. So those are people who you had in the first season. In the second season, they kind of expanded upon that.
Wasn't John Leguizamo and Horatio Sands and
Yes, well, Horatio Sands, he appeared in the first episode of the first season. He was the guy who he's hunting down.
Right, and gets frozen in carbonite, right?
Yeah, and then like carbon freezes. He shows up again then in the episode where he goes back to Navarro in season 2. He's like working for Carl Weathers' character now. Like when he first sees, the Mandalorian again, he like has like a reaction, which was basically the equivalent of wetting his pants. But like in addition to like the people I mentioned already who were in this first season, people in the second season, John Leguizamo was the voice of the guy who he meets at the beginning of the first episode of season 2. The guy who gives him like information that leads him back to Tatooine. Tamira Morrison, who played Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones, and then was like the clone guys in Revenge of the Sith. He's back as Boba Fett. Katie Sackhoff, who did the voice of Bo-Katan on Clone Wars, plays her live action here. Looks pretty much the same as the character did in Clone Wars, which is kind of funny considering the time passage.
Sasha Banks.
Mercedes.
Sasha Banks, credited, of course, under her real name of Mercedes Varnado, is Casca Reeves, Bo-Katan's, fellow Mandalorian. Timothy Oliphant played Cobb Vanth, the marshal in the town on Tatooine in the first episode. Titus Welliver, who's been in a bunch of stuff. He has his own Amazon series, the name of which I'm forgetting. He was the Imperial captain on the ship that they like hijacked, the Mandalorian.
Okay, that's right.
The one who like bit on what I guess you could call like a cyanide capsule, that kind of killed himself. Michael Biehn, who's known for movies like Aliens and The Terminator and Tombstone and The Rock,
what you're talking about.
Was the subordinate guy in that like Walden city that Ahsoka is attacking, if you will. And then of course Rosario Dawson appears as Ahsoka, giving us our first glimpse of Ahsoka in the flesh, as it were. And then of course there was the the part at the end.
The part at
we're
the
not going to
end.
talk about quite yet.
So, but no, there was I find it very interesting because some of these roles, were only one episode or they weren't very big or anything, but it's very interesting that after like only like one season, or in some cases not even one season, they were just basically able to sell some of these people like, hey, you want to be in the Star Wars TV show? So
kind of like you say Star Wars, and like, what do you want me to do? I'm game.
It'll make me interested to see where they go in season 3 of this show, and then with the other shows that we know are coming, as to see like who you might suddenly show up in again.
Yeah, crossover from different shows. Yeah.
Well, not even just that, but just like all of a sudden, like hey, this actor is now a part of Star Wars. So.
Okay, I see what you mean.
I just remember Samuel L. Jackson talking about, when he saw like the original Star Wars movies, he was like, man, I have got to find a way to get in these movies. And then of course he ends up playing Mace Windu in the prequels and everything. So
which was talked about before, which we thought was very out of character for him in the way he just his persona, like the person that we always see him act as, was so different. But anyways, I digress.
That's true, but it was just a way of kind of saying like, hey, it was like his dream to be in Star Wars, and he found a way to be in Star Wars. So we'll kind of see going forward, I guess, if there's like any other actor out there who's like, yeah, I wanted to be in Star Wars. So
yeah, it is the way.
I think that because I don't watch the cartoon stuff because I don't like cartoons.
They're animated shows, not cartoons.
So they're cartoons. So not gonna sway me on that. They're cartoon. So, Joe, I know at the end of season 1, Joe was super excited because of a certain lightsaber that we got to see.
Yeah, let's just talk about that. Let's just say it. The dark saber came out. It
Sweet
was
ass shit.
Awesome. That was really cool to know, because I'll let Theo go ahead, tell us a little bit of the history of the dark saber.
Some people on this podcast need to suck it up and watch the good old cartoon to find out these.
Not gonna happen.
Never gonna happen, man. Never gonna happen.
You don't even have to watch the whole thing. You just have to watch like 3 episodes or something. 3-4 episodes. You'll get it all.
I'll probably fall asleep. So.
Oh God. Anyway, it's
like Pat.
Man, it's he does that quite a bit. Podcasts, WrestleManias. We know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Let's give him some time.
When you're carrying around this much weight and you just find life to be a horrible bore and you don't sleep very well and you're
Jesus.
Here we go. We open the door.
All right, come on, dark saber. Tell us about the dark saber.
Guys.
And we're not talking about Darth Pat's dark saber, okay?
So we could.
Listen, I wasn't going there. Lord, I wasn't going there this time. Mandalorian tradition, Darth Saber. Whoever holds the Darth Saber is the leader of the Mandalorian. And I will cut the head off of that action figure.
This is not an action figure. This is a
statue. Oh, Joe pulled out his lightsaber.
Here we go. Now we're going to argue over whether it's an action figure or a toy or a statue.
This is a statuette.
Oh, because it's tiny, like you.
That's correct.
It's a foot tall. I definitely wouldn't call it an action figure because it's not posable or anything.
No. Yeah, it's not an action figure. It's not. So whoever holds the dark saber is the leader of the Mandalorian. Pretty much simple as that. It's just a badass weapon because it's a lightsaber, but a swordish version. And it is pretty badass. It's kind of hard to explain. It's just not hard to explain, but it's something different. It's the first time you see something that's not a true lightsaber. It's not the first time you see it in the animated shows. It's been in books and comics and things of that nature. It depends on how invested you are in the Star Wars and how much you do read, which I do read a lot of that shit.
Mm-hmm.
So it just,
I do. I definitely have too.
It's just a point where, you're bringing, even the books that are now legendary books. It's cool to see where they're taking at people from the legendary series and slowly starting to incorporate them into
like Thrawn.
So yes, the current Star Wars universe, whatever the hell they want to call it, what's canon. Great. So, it's good stories in regards to that. It's just cool, something different, something that you don't see in the movies, and you're only going to be able to see it in like animated shows or comics or now live action. That's another thing besides, the Darksaber showing up. It's something about the Mandalorians,
Mm-hmm.
Boba Fett made that happen, and the fans would have gone apeshit over Boba Fett and Return of the, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi and stuff. There's not going to be no Mandalorian show. It'd be about something else. So, his following, just like Ahsoka. Ahsoka's created for an animated show, and she has a book, and she's been in the comics and stuff like that. And she has a huge following.
Boba Fett's definitely a guy that there's like me, and there's a lot of people who like Boba Fett a lot, even though he wasn't even in either of those 2 movies for a super long time.
Just something different.
Cool.
Yeah, it was just like a cool character they created, not like Jar Jar Binks. But anyway, it's just the fact that it was something different.
Definitely cool to see Boba Fett again.
Oh yeah, that's another key factor.
Yeah,
and they did it the right way too, which is good.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to when we talk about season 2. But I just want to give a final thought because I can't think of anything super significant besides what we've already talked about in regards to season 1 that happened that I think we need to talk about or discuss. But overall, season 1 fantastic. A great series from first episode to last episode. All of them meant something, storyline wise, or character wise, or something. There was growth. It was very well done, and I think Jon Favreau was the right person for them to put on this project and continue to do this project, because he is a Star Wars fan. Like, that's the right person to do this, and he wants to keep the integrity. So, and I think that's another reason why it was so good from beginning to end, as well as when we talk about season 2. Anybody else got any final thoughts they want to throw out there?
Well, when you mention Favreau, I mean, I think you also have to give a lot of credit to Dave Filoni, who
Yes, you
did
do.
a lot of the writing and producing along with Favreau on some of these episodes. And Dave Filoni, for those who don't know, he was really the creative force behind both the Clone Wars and Rebels animated series.
Yes.
He also really seems to get it, in the sense that he knows how to please the fans, but not by doing it like Force Awakens style, in the sense of just like, it's not like endless nostalgia or endless callbacks and everything. There's new stuff that's in there. There's character development, this, that, and the other thing. So, he deserves a lot of credit for that too. And this is going to lead me to something that I want to talk about after we're kind of done talking about season 2, about, kind of like the direction and Lucasfilm and everything. But obviously, I mean, Favreau is the big creative force, and he also got a lot of really good directors for these episodes, like Taika Waititi, like I said, directed an episode, a couple episodes. Peyton Reed, who directed the 2 Ant-Man movies, directed a couple episodes here in season 2. Bryce Dallas Howard, who I think we know more as an actress, she directed 1 episode in each season. Robert Rodriguez directed an episode. Carl Weathers directed an episode. So he's gotten some really good people to kind of help out, behind the scenes and everything, which has definitely been, I think, one of the reasons why the reception has been as good as it's been.
Yeah, definitely,
absolutely.
AJ, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna put my wrestling spin on the Mandalorian. He starts as a heel at the beginning, and now during season 1, he's kind of a tweener. We're playing the tweener card with him, where he's not really a heel anymore, and we're gonna start swaying him a little bit more. I don't think he ever becomes a complete face, but he's definitely more like a tweener. And I feel like at the beginning we were supposed to think he was a heel or a villain. So,
well, I think that it was. I mean, the term anti-hero gets overused, really. But I think that the whole thing with him being a bounty hunter, I think the thing that they were really kind of going for is to make you think of like a lot of kind of like second era Western films. And I mean, again, I'm gonna go back to like Clint Eastwood and like the Man with No Name trilogy. I think that's kind of like the vibe that they were going for at first. And then, you start peeling back the layers of the onion, so to speak.
Ogres are like onions. We have layers.
Yes. Or as Donkey would say, parfaits.
Blooming onions are really good. Go ahead.
I had a blooming onion today. But they just show something like obviously just like triggers in him when he sees the child, and then as the first season goes on, you start to see what that is and what made him decide to rescue the child and then keep him and then basically go on the run with him. So yeah.
Theo, any last thoughts before we move into season 2?
I'm ready for season 2.
All right. So before we move into season 2 officially, I do want to take just one moment and say thank you to all our fans out there. We do appreciate you guys tuning in. We are live this episode. Been checking our chat, and right now we did have one person join us, but they didn't want to chat with me. So, that'll be what it'll be. It's okay. But we're just glad that everybody's watching wherever you're catching us, whether you're catching us live on YouTube, watching it on the replay. you're catching it on iTunes podcast, or I should say Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you're catching us, we just appreciate you tuning in. And always, because we do have a Mount Rushmore, please stay tuned to the end so you can catch the Mount Rushmore, which is based on The Mandalorian.
Maybe H-Bomb doesn't like Star Wars.
Maybe not. H-Bomb did not join us today, but that's okay. I'm sure we got plenty of Star Wars geeks out there like ourselves. So we can say that because we are Star Wars geeks and nerds all ourselves. So hence why I have freaking Legos of the Star Wars, and I have a whole dresser full of them. So it's it doesn't get kind of. Uh-oh.
This is my wife found this. I don't remember where she found it at, but she bought it. She liked it. She's like, these are cool, and they're made from 3D printers.
Oh, nice. The Mandalorian and the child
coming out of their head.
They're like chia pets.
Are those chia pets?
Wow,
kinda.
They have just plants that come out of their head.
Yeah, you just don't rub the seeds on their heads.
Yeah, you got to water them though. You got to spray a little water on them, but it's real plants.
The child kind of looks like a troll doll.
Yeah,
I know.
a little bit.
It's
Turn his
cool.
hair red. Turn the leaves red and or orange.
Oh
It's
man.
cool.
All right. So it is we got to talk about season 2 because as good as season 1 was, and sometimes when you get a season 2 and the season 1's so good, you're like, okay, is it going to be a letdown? And you're kind of building yourself up like, okay, it's probably going to be maybe as good, probably not as good, but season 2 fucking delivers.
Gave me a Star Wars hard on, okay?
Yes.
That's what it did.
In big
pants
ways.
moment did happen.
Yes,
And it happened in big ways, and it wasn't even the final episode that was like the big things. Like there was just some really cool shit that they expanded upon, and just the first episode. And I hope I got my episodes right. The first episode of season 2, he goes to Tatooine, and he's
Marshall
in Tatooine, meets the Marshal, who was played by, once again,
Timothy Oliphant.
Timothy Oliphant, thank you. He was almost my Mount Rushmore person, almost, because I like his character. I really like his character because he's like kind of he's a sarcastic ass. Like he's
played that similar character in other shows.
Yes, he has. But we find out he has Boba Fett's armor. Somehow, don't know how he actually got it. He tries to tell a story which was so full of shit. It wasn't even real. He's like,
that's the interesting thing. There's a book out there which is considered canon, where it describes the way that he got the armor, and it is different from the story that he tells the Mandalorian in the episode here. So, it's the whole like unreliable narrator premise. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but it does make it funny how like there's like two, different forms of media that have, canon stories out there about how he got the armor. So yeah.
And some of us got to revert back to Knights of the Old Republic.
Yes.
During that episode for sure, when they fight the Krayt Dragon. We all remember doing that in Knights of the Old Republic.
Yes. Indeed.
And the prize that comes with it.
And I thought it was very, very interesting that he could speak to the sand people. I'm like, this guy can talk to sand people now. I'm like,
well, so far he's the only one we know of that can really talk to sand people. So
it's like, this is like, I just had to chuckle because like it reminds me of like one of those characters in a show, and like they can just do anything. Like they just have the ability to do anything, and like all of a sudden this guy just knows how to talk to the sand people. I'm like, okay, sure.
I mean, the Krayt Dragon looked nothing like in this show like it did in the video game, but it was still really cool to see the lore of the Krayt Dragon, and that when it was dead, they were trying to get the pearl out of it, because we definitely remember getting the pearl out of it in the video game. That's why you had to kill it in the game so you could get the pearl.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No, so I mean, I guess that makes the Knights of the Old. I mean, I don't think they were
going for that.
I don't think they were considered canon anyway. But it's like, they were so long ago in the past. You'd always hope that they could still be considered canon. But you can't have even with the passage of time, you can't say that something looks, that different, and have it be the same thing. So,
Yeah.
On the other hand, though, the Great Dragon, as it was depicted in this episode, looked a hell of a lot more like the skeleton of the Great Dragon that you see, of course, in episode 4 than the way they designed the Great Dragon to look in Knights of the Old Republic. But yeah.
And the cool thing that happens is after he gets Boba Fett's armor and helps them out with the Great Dragon and everything's, back to normal, so to say, in Tatooine, as he's driving away, we see a mysterious figure in the foreground. And we're like, who is that? And every one of us were like, that's Boba Fett.
Jesus, all you want, but we know who it is.
It's like, it's gotta be Boba Fett, because who the hell else would it be? Because we find out then later on that he is also the mysterious figure, and he saved somebody from episode 1, which was the assassin, played by, once again, help us out, Darth Pat.
It was the character Fennec Shand, who was played by Ming-Na Wen.
Yes. Yeah. So that was pretty freaking awesome, because as Star Wars fans, and as like AJ said, he was so small of a part. His part was so small in 2 movies, but yet he is such a substantial character in the Star Wars universe, having Boba Fett and being played, which was also pretty cool, being played by the guy that was in the movies for Star Wars as Jango Fett.
Yep.
Playing himself now as Boba Fett. So that was pretty cool too. And you do get to see that he's slightly disfigured. I believe they did do some disfigurement on his face and stuff like that. Not a ton, but a little bit, just to show that, being in the Sarlacc pit and being eaten by the Sarlacc did do something to him.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty awesome.
We know that something happened. We have no idea of what. And that's actually kind of the interesting thing is, that's something that they've left open now to, possibly it could be explained in the Boba Fett series, but for right now, it's just, okay, he got out. We do know what he looked like, because he was like an unaltered clone of Jango Fett. So, it becomes that he would look exactly like Jango Fett. And we did see Jango Fett his helmet in Attack of the Clones. So obviously he, something happened to him, of course. And, there was the whole thing, how was it C-3PO put it? He will be slowly digested over a period of 1,000 years. So
He's not going to die that soon.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it would be like to be digested over 1,000 years. I know in some of the old novels they explained it that he got out because he had like a thermal detonator, which he used to somehow like kill the Sarlacc, and then somehow he was able to get out. But it's like he obviously could have done a good bit of damage to himself with the use of a thermal detonator. But hopefully they'll explain it. But obviously, yes, he looks a little worse for the wear.
Yeah, we figure that story's got to come up at some time, like have some kind of explanation. We know it's in the books that were written about Boba Fett, but it'd be nice to have the story as in a series, on a TV show. And then we head to episode 2, which I don't think anything significant happened in episode 2, season 2.
Him eating the eggs.
Yeah, the eating the eggs, that was kind of funny. Like,
oh yeah,
and
people were so upset about that.
There was a lot of people that were very upset about this child who's, they call him the child at this point in time, eating these eggs because, oh my God, they're children. Well, here's what I say to those people that were very upset. It's a fucking TV show. It's not real.
It was because she said it was like the last eggs of her life cycle. So it was like, it's like he's like taking away the woman, I guess you want to say the frog lady, whoever you want to call it. It's taking away her last chance to really, propagate or, procreate. I don't know why I said propagate. But it's taking away like her last chance to procreate. And they almost make it seem as if she's like the last of her species in a way.
That's her and her husband. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they don't say that specifically, and I mean that is a big assumption to make, but they don't not say it. So that's why I think people were disturbed by it too, because it's like, hey, eating some poor innocent characters' unborn children is a little messed up. So
well, and here's the thing, like having Yoda in pretty much in so many of the movies, we never see him eat anything, so we have no idea what the hell this dude eats.
No.
Except he's making like that stew one time on Dagobah for Luke to eat. But other than that, we have no idea what he eats. So I found it very funny that he just the child just randomly eats some freaking eggs that are like the size of a freaking orange, and he's just slurping them down with one big gulp. He doesn't even chew them. He's just like
well, the other problem is that we see is that this kid is willing to eat almost anything. I mean, like what, and then following episode, they give him that like
blue stuff.
No, let's just call it stew. Like when they're on like the aquatic planet, the thing that's got something that's like still living in it that like jumps out and
yeah.
The Mandalorian like reprimands him and saying like, don't play with your food or something.
Yeah.
And then of course when he goes and he just like opens up like the spider egg and eats like the spider out of it. And again, of course, the spiders that we see in episode 2, they have a name which is escaping me, and I'm too lazy to go look up right now.
Well, and there's another thing that people got upset about, but finish your thought real quick.
Well, I mean, those spiders, I mean, it was cool because, they were something that we saw in the season of Rebels.
Yes.
So it was cool that they introduced them into live action. So it just, kind of further, saying like, hey, here they are, they're canon,
Mm-hmm. And here was the other thing, and Joe knows this from watching Rebels, and I think, Pat, you watched Rebels too.
Yep.
The spiders were on, because people got upset about this too. How can they just shoot the spiders and they're dying? Because we know from Rebels, they're on a different planet. They're not even on the same planet as what happens in the Mandalorian, but they shoot them and the bullets bounce off of them. Like they can't shoot them and kill them.
Yeah.
So I don't know why people got so upset about this, like why it was such a big deal. Like, we know stories are going to vary and things are going to change from director to director, show to show. It never remains 100% the same.
Yeah.
So you got to take into effect that they're on a different planet. It's somebody else directing it. So maybe the spiders aren't exactly the same kind of spiders that we see. They just look exactly, they look the same.
There was that part in that episode though where he like brings the egg to him, the child. We didn't really see him use his powers. Like we saw him use the powers to bring the egg to him so he could eat it. And we hadn't really seen him use his powers. He didn't always use his powers. He got to the point where he felt like he was like hiding them or he didn't want to show them. But that was one time where he did use his powers to get one of the eggs out of there.
He was like, I'm damn hungry. Give me this shit.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think why people got upset is because in Rebels it was shown that the spiders had, like a level of intelligence, and that, like it was just like hey, it's like their territory was being encroached upon, and they were afraid and this that, and it's like but I guess the first analogy I can really kind of think of is like obviously there's different species of different or different types, I don't know if different species is the right word, of different animals. Like, okay, did anybody ever see what a leopard seal is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's more like somebody even said, I think once, it's more leopard than seal. So you think of a seal, you think of this like kind of small, half aquatic, half mammalian creature that kind of barks like a dog, and can be trained to do all cute little tricks at SeaWorld and everything, and is basically harmless. Leopard seals are like vicious predators, basically.
They are.
And they will, so they're going to act like predators. I mean, they're going to hunt, they're going to kill without remorse and everything. So yeah, while these are like, spiders, or again, I can't remember the damn thing's name, they're very different types of. So there could be that. These could be on that planet, which again, I don't know if they ever actually named that planet. It was, an icy planet, of course. It wasn't Hoth, but we know that. But
I
yeah,
don't remember them naming it.
right. But it just, they could be totally different types. Like they may not have that willingness to communicate as the ones from Rebels did. But more so than that, it's just that, I mean, hey, all the little ones started hatching, and then after all the little ones started hatching, here came mommy with all of its other ones that had already hatched, and they're instantly aggressive, and they're instantly chasing after them and attacking. It's like, what are you supposed to do? Stand there and try to reason with them?
Don't hurt me.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have a way of communicating with them the way that Kanan and Ezra were able to on Rebels, and that was only because of the Bendu character, voiced by Doctor Who Tom Baker. But yeah, it's like, look, that was unfortunately an instance of kill or be killed, and they would have been killed if the two X-wing pilots hadn't returned. So
yes, speaking of them,
at some point, you kind of have to get over the whole, oh my God, they killed these innocent creatures. Well, unfortunately, at the time, they really couldn't be classified as innocent creatures. They were aggressive creatures, and you got to do what you got to do to survive.
Yeah. And speaking of the X-wings, it was pretty cool to see like a glimpse of the New Republic also come into play with seeing the X-wing and them trying to get identification from the Mandalorian and his ship and stuff like that. And
they're like police officers, police in the space.
Yeah.
So it was like a little bit different. Like, they were different. What's the word I'm looking for? Different. So they were doing something different capacity, and then just we never really seen X-wing fighters flying around like being space police before, and like we need your identification or any of that jazz.
Yeah, it definitely sounds more like that they're acting as like glorified cops now than fighter pilots basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, it did kind of give us a glimpse, like when they says like, well, these are trying times, and this is only supposed to be about what, like 5-6 years after Return of the Jedi. So obviously not, and we know that there's obviously Imperials still out there and in some form and everything. So we know not everything's all hunky dory. I think we'll get more of a glimpse of that when I'm guessing it's that Rangers of the New Republic show hits. I have a feeling that probably just because again that's an area that I think is kind of ripe for. It's getting a little off track of Mandalorian here, but that's an area of Star Wars now that's really ripe for further development. Is why do we go from End of Return of the Jedi? Yay, the Emperor's dead, the Death Star's been destroyed, the Empire's in disarray, to beginning of Force Awakens. The Republic, is not very effective. There's the Resistance, which is still basically the rebellion, and there's the First Order, which is still basically the Empire. It's like the Republic's in charge, and sure shit doesn't feel like it. And then obviously the First Order destroys the New Republic. So there's a lot of stuff they can do to show how it gets from those points. So that's something it does. That's something that I'm kind of interested to see how they handle. But
all right. So moving on from episode 2, we spent a little bit of extra time on episode 2, but episode 3, I don't think anything significant happened in that episode. Oh, something did significant happen.
Yeah.
Help me out, Theo or AJ.
So episode 3 was the Hyris. So that's where they crash landed on the planet to reunite Frog Lady with her husband. But that's where we meet little Sasha Banks hiding with her cloak on, because people didn't know if she was going to be a Jedi or not. When you show a thing with her in a cloak, people start freaking out about that. But it turns out that she's part of the Mandalorians.
Yeah, and there was also the theory that she could be Sabine from Rebels.
Yes.
Before
Yeah.
Turned out to not be true, which I got to be honest, I was fine with that. The fact that she was playing a different character was really fun because that way she could just play the character and not have to live up to like existing expectations of what that character could be.
Yes, but we did get to see
Bo-Katan,
which was pretty awesome because if like we watched Rebels and Bo-Katan at one point in time had the dark saber,
correct,
and now doesn't have it. So
it's a backstory. How'd she lose it? Why does this bad guy have it?
Yeah.
This Imperial guy have it? Like, what happened here that you lost the saber? What did you do? What did you fuck up?
When Moff Gideon, emerged from the crashed TIE fighter and like the post-credit scene there at the end of season 1 with the dark saber, my first thought was, OMG, the dark saber. My second thought was, how the hell did he get it? So
why do you have it? What did you do?
That's something to still be explored.
So yeah, we did get to see that. I forgot about that was episode 3. I thought that was episode 2, but episode 3,
And the other thing that they kind of revealed in episode 3 is that Bo-Katan basically tells him,
"You're an idiot."
You're part of like a cult of Mandalorians with the whole never take your helmet off thing.
Yeah, the old school version.
Yes,
right.
That really doesn't exist anymore.
Go ahead, AJ.
As far as you're concerned.
That just opens up a little bit more about him not necessarily being a true Mandalorian or just that there's differences that have to be brokered, I guess, between the existing Mandalorians who are out there.
Yeah.
The tornado DDT officially became Star Wars canon in that episode.
Yes, it
did.
Very true.
Was that in that episode or was that in the finale? I don't remember now.
No, that was.
No, she did it in the bar. She did it in the bar fight. They were fighting in the bar or whatever. I remember. Okay. I remember Sakamoto posting that the tornado DDT was canon.
Yeah, I do. I do definitely remember that.
So that was when a wrestler's on a TV show, they have to do like The Rock does rock bottom. How many times have we seen The Rock do a rock bottom in something? Like it's like you
absolutely
have to get your wrestling thing into there just to make the wrestling people happy. So
I'm pretty sure the first time I ever saw The Rock act in a non-WWE capacity was
Star Trek.
Was when he did the episode of Star Trek Voyager, and he was like a gladiator.
Rock bottom, 7 of 9.
Pretty sure he did a rock bottom.
He 100% did.
Yeah, I remember watching that, and I think I even started going like rock bottom. My dad's looking at me like, I'm like, what, Dad? That's what JR always does.
And then like, just, and then I remember in the one Fast and Furious movie, him and Vin Diesel did the Doomsday device on somebody. I'm like, Doomsday.
Oh, yes, they did. Yeah, that was sweet.
Yeah. So let's go on. Let's move on to episode 4. Help jog my memory. I remember it when people talk about it.
Real quick, just about episode 3. The other key point, of course, of episode 3 is that at the end of the episode, Bo-Katan told him to go find Ahsoka Tano. And so it's like
the Jedi.
The rumors were pretty much out there, but they were still, of course, unconfirmed that she was going to be showing up. That more or less confirmed it. So that it's like the giddiness factor was kind of all like, oh, they're going to show Ahsoka.
Were you giddy like a schoolgirl?
I was stoked. I was waiting for this.
I was pretty excited too.
Especially by Rosario Dawson.
And we'll talk about that. So episode 4 of season 2, we get to see
Siege.
The Siege. That's where he goes back to Navarro, hooks back up with Grief Karga and Cara Dune. Yes. And they basically ask him to help him rid the last remnants of the Imperials from the planet. They had this one little sector which turned out to be more or less a research base.
Yes.
And you started to get more of an idea of what the Imperials were up to, because you saw the tanks, which contain things that looked a little bit like a certain villain we saw already that got chopped in half, but it provided us our first glimpse of what's to follow chronologically in terms of the sequels and everything. So
plus, you kind of you're figuring out they want Baby Yoda to do testing and use his blood for cloning. Pretty much is what it's legitimately coming down to. Especially when they play that message that the one guy finds, and you listen to it, and that transmission, you're hearing that, you're like, oh shit. So they're really trying to do is it just this stuff, or are we trying to clone to help out somebody in episode 9 of the Star Wars movies? Like, how big of a picture does this go?
Yeah, and they mentioned M counts, so it's like about midichlorians, and then we also get, of course, the cuteness that is Baby Yoda in school stealing the little girls what looked like macaroons, and
that was funny.
Just being,
and eventually,
just being all kind of like, he starts eating them, and he's got that look on his face that basically says, "Yeah, I took them. What you gonna do about it? I'm Baby Yoda. I sell the merch."
He certainly does.
And then he threw up.
Well, yes, during the chase scene from the TIE Fighters. He spits up. He was all like, ah.
That was kind of funny, though. Like, typical kid stuff.
I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. And then episode 5, we get the Jedi Ahsoka Tano.
Like the best opening scene of any of the episodes.
That opening scene was pretty fucking badass because you don't see her until she lights up the lightsabers.
It's coming. It's like you're just waiting. I was just like, come on, just fuck them all up. Let's just do this. Let's get this over with.
The little thing's talking to me. The little thing's talking to us now.
So Dave Filoni, who again, like I said, is the Clone Wars and Rebels guy, and you can more or less call the creator of the character. He wrote and directed that episode, and you could tell because, Ahsoka's really depicted in the best possible light there. And like the intro scene is done great because you don't really know what's going on at first, and it's almost like a horror movie. It's almost like a slasher movie in that these guys are going out hunting this thing that they can't see, and then of course we know that the slasher is actually the good guy and everything, but because we see the lightsabers ignite and everything, and it's just so cool the way that she's depicted is that they're no match for her and everything, but she's of course not unreasonable. She's basically all like, it was what was The Rock's first movie? The one
Rock's first movie?
The one where he was like the star for the first time.
The Rundown?
The Rundown, that was it. It was like when he always the Rock's character in The Rundown would give that ultimatum, like, option 1, you do blah 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 blah. Option 2, I make you. That was kind of like she.
But what about option 3? What about option C? There is no option C.
Yeah, but it's like she gives like that ultimatum to like the magistrate, I guess, or whatever that woman was calling herself. She's basically saying like free the city or else I'll free it for you, or from you. So, it was just really well done. And Rosario Dawson was really like the only person I think that they could really honestly cast in that role that would have made it. So, maybe there's somebody else. I can't think of who that person is.
So I'm going to ask this question. It's going to be maybe inappropriate, but I'm going to ask it anyways because that's what we do on this. That's what we do on this show. We're inappropriate at times.
So I know exactly where he's going with this. I think
so. Rosario Dawson, hot or not hot as Ahsoka Tano? Show of hands. Who thought she was hot?
He was going with it.
I thought she was hot.
I'm not saying no to that.
Rosario Dawson's.
That's a dumb question, Jeremy. I think we already know the answer.
Well,
Rosario Dawson's pretty hot. I don't think you can say she's not hot just because she's got that makeup on and everything.
Well, some people would have been like, "Well, she didn't look like Rosario Dawson." The makeup.
Those people are gay.
Okay,
well, maybe not that, but geez.
But this wasn't like like Charlize Theron in Monster, where she's wearing makeup that is supposed to make her look unattractive. So it's not a situation like that. So
but I had to throw that question out there because hey, it wouldn't be our show if we didn't have that question out there, regardless of it being a dumb question or not. It's got to be asked.
It wouldn't be our show if we didn't act like sexist pigs.
That's right.
From time to time, yes.
To all those ladies out there, we apologize. But
they're all married, and I'm respectful of women.
So I thought it was pretty cool. The one thing I thought was really cool was when Ahsoka Tano fights the lady at the end, which I have no idea what her name is. It was really cool that she had a Beskar like staff. So it wasn't like over in 2 seconds. She had to really, Ahsoka Tano really had to fight like this lady. Like it wasn't like an easy contest where she could just whoop her ass and be done with it. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, like the actress who played the character, Morgan Elsbeth, it says was the name of the magistrate, the character name of the magistrate. Mm-hmm. The actress who played her is like a martial artist and a stunt double and stunt coordinator. So she's been in like a lot. I remember looking up her because she looks familiar to me. So I remember looking up like her her filmography. She really hasn't had that many straight acting roles. It's mostly been as like a stunt performer and stuff. But she obviously knows how to fight. But yes, the very important thing of that scene, of course, was to show that Beskar can basically hold its own against the lightsaber. It can parry at the very least with the lightsaber. So it's a good defensive weapon. And then obviously, since we know that the Mandalorian's wearing Beskar, we know he's got some protection should a Jedi come looking for him.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we really get 3 major things out of this episode. 1, we get Ahsoka. 2, we get Baby Yoda's name, Grogu. And 3, that Thrawn is Thrawn's going to be given to us in live action at some point when the Ahsoka season comes out. And that's like huge as well. Not just because of the old legendary books, which I read all of them, but the new books. He's another one, just someone who was created after the fact that has a huge following, which I think is cool. And there's a huge thing in Rebels that leads up to Ahsoka looking for him to look for Ezra. So I mean, that's another thing that's such a tie-in from the animated show to the live action, and she's gonna get it. It's just there's a whole bunch of stuff. It's just one thing leads into another, and that's just the great aspect of what they're doing with this initial TV series.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Thrawn. Well, I just want to say about Thrawn real quick. Thrawn. I mean, my dad bought Heir to the Empire, the book that introduced Thrawn, like when it was first printed back in like I think it was like 1991 or 1992. And I remember he was telling me about how great this character was, how this character was like scarier than Vader in some ways. And I tried to read the book, and I was too young to read that book at that time. Like that's not a book for a 10-year-old. It's just not written for a 10-year-old. No. It's not written for a 10-year-old to be able to read. It's beyond a 10-year-old's reading level. So it's not that the content was bad. It's just that it's an adult book in that sense, in terms of reading level. But yeah, so Thrawn, I think, is like the most popular character that was probably ever introduced outside of the original trilogy. I think I can say that. Maybe Ahsoka, maybe somebody else, but
Mara Jade. I don't know. Would have liked to have seen Mara Jade. So
I would say Ahsoka's probably second on that.
But so I think Thrawn's always kind of been that character. So when they brought him into Rebels, that was one thing. But when she said his name, and I got to be honest, I've just figured, of course, like when she's like saying, like, where is he? That she's also talking about Gideon.
No, I was hoping she was going to say his name. But when she wanted it.
When she said Thrawn, I was probably about like 5:30 in the morning, and I was watching it on my phone in my bed. I practically jumped out of my bed when she said Thrawn, because I was like, oh my God, we're gonna see Thrawn live action.
Yeah.
Pat doesn't jump for much, but he jumps for Thrawn.
So, I mean, I just, again, that was just another one of just like a jaw-dropping moment.
So
we already had 2 or 3 by this point.
If you jump for Thrawn, then what did you do at the end of episode 10? Or
episode
9?
10.
I mean 9.
He ran through a door.
Do you mean episode 8?
Or 8, I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Well,
We'll get to that. You can tell us we're almost there. We're talking about episode 6. Episode 6, they fly to that planet that has the big like bubble thing that he can sit on, the Jedi rock or whatever, meditation rock that he can sit on. And we see some pretty, what's that?
It was supposed to be an old temple, they said.
Yeah.
Which that episode was really cool because one, you see a really cool force power where he sits on the meditation rock or whatever they technically call it. And like you see the big, like you can see the force emanating from him and like shooting up into the sky and shit like that. That was really cool. But the other thing that was really, really awesome in that episode is Boba Fett and the assassin come back and they're there to help him out.
Yeah.
Which you don't know that at first because you think they're there to try and kill him and take the child. But you find out there that he's actually there to help. And because Moff Gideon sends a shitload of fucking troopers down to the planet to try and get him, get the child.
And, the troopers still can't shoot with the shit. And they still can't fight with the shit. Like, legitimately, it's so horrible. And you can tell, it's like you have another new crop of different type of stormtroopers and they still do the same old shit. Can't do anything.
Well, you put that stupid ass helmet on and try and shoot somebody. I think it's the problem. They need bigger eye holes. They can't see.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they're tripping over the wall like the Shockmaster.
Yeah.
The other cool thing about that episode is you see Boba Fett fighting with the with the gaffy stick that comes from Tatooine. So you get to see just how ineffective a weapon that is. So that was pretty cool.
He gets his armor back.
Yeah, he gets his armor back. So, and then of course we see the Dark Troopers in action for the first time. Which again, if you're an old extended universe video game player, you already know what the Dark Troopers were.
Yep.
And what they can do. So that was a cool moment. And then of course the Dark Troopers succeed in capturing Grogu and the Razor Crest gets destroyed.
Yes. And we get to see Slave One again, which was really cool. I thought that was cool that he still had his original ship, Slave One. Like it didn't get destroyed or anything like that. And he had the original Slave One ship, which was really cool. But that episode, if you guys remember my text message when I watched that episode, I was fucking pissed when that episode ended. I was like, motherfuckers stole the fucking Grogu and like motherfuckers. Like I was so pissed at that episode. I was like, this shit's not supposed to happen, but it worked out well because
upset about that, man.
I was very upset about that, but it worked out because how
they kidnap him? No.
It was fun to see him tossing the stormtroopers around inside the jail cell.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was really cool.
But of course, as soon as Gideon comes in, he basically intimidates him down and it's like, somebody's a little tuckered out, or however the hell he said it. He said it in such a a condescendingly evil way. It's just like makes you hate him all the more. So
yeah, he does a really good job of playing that character. Like he does that character. They got the right person for that character, just like Ahsoka Tano.
He's just perfectly smug and hateable and just everything. So.
So that was a really cool episode. And we get to, is it episode 7 where he gets the child back? He's able to get the child back in episode 7.
Episode 7 is where they go.
Oh, that's right. They go to the Imperial base. That's right. That's the Imperial base episode.
Yeah. They get Mayfield out of prison first using Cara Dune's connection as a marshal of the New Republic. Just so they can go onto the planet to access the Imperial terminal so they can find like the codes to find Gideon's ship and everything like that. And there's an allusion to a movie called The Wages of Fear that was made in 1953. It's about 4 guys who are in this South American town.
It's about 4
guys. It has an illusion here. It's like these 4 guys who are in this South American town who are hired by this oil company to drive huge containers of nitroglycerin over very rough, uneven, mountainous and jungle roads. to get it to like an oil field where there's been like a huge like oil spill and oil fire, so they can contain the fire.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's obviously very dangerous, and, you know, spoiler alert, not all of them make it. But
Of course.
what the Imperials were doing on this planet with the stuff that they were transporting very much reminded me of that movie, when that like they're transporting this stuff that's very volatile, and it's that, you know, they've got these like, you know, pirates, I guess you could say, attacking them, and like trying to like, you know, destroy it on them so they can't use it, which is, you know, actually good. But of course the problem is they need to get on those things in order to get into the Imperial base, so they have to fight those people off.
So fans, this is as much as we love our friend Darth Pat, this is one of the problems. He's watched way too many movies, so he's able to tie in shit that we have no idea what the hell he's talking about. Like,
you
what?
guys have not watched enough movies.
It's us that haven't watched enough movies. That's the problem.
The movie I'm referencing that was also remade in the late 70s. So there.
Oh, remade in the late 70s.
He probably watched that one too, so he's seen both versions.
Some of us watch more wrestling than movies, so that's my reasoning. So
these days, I just go, how can you watch more wrestling than movies?
But I thought one of the funny things in that is like, if you're like that interaction that Bill Burr and the Mandalorian have during the whole ride, and he's freaking out because it's getting up to like the danger zone. And then you see kind of how bad, you know, you see the Mandalorian become a badass. He's still a badass, even though he's really doing a lot of good. He's still a badass with being able to shoot and punch, and he, you know, just crazy ass shit.
We see him take his mask off.
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, AJ. Talk a little bit about that.
Ultimate sacrifice.
Just a side note real quick here, Jeremy, not to change the subject, but this is important to me and you, even though it was forthcoming. They officially announced Mr. Manning's induction about 5 minutes ago into the Hall of Fame. So
nice.
That was
awesome.
obvious.
I know. I was going to mention that at the end of the episode. I mean,
we'll talk about that more at the end. I just wanted to. Me and Jeremy both like him a lot.
We are coming up on the 2-hour mark, so I don't know how much we're going to talk about that.
Well, even when it's over.
Yeah,
but
I mean, everybody knew Peyton was.
This is our network. We have our own time limit.
But yes, we get to see the Mandalorian's face. And AJ, what was your first thought when you got to see the Mandalorian's face?
I didn't really know. I'd be honest with you. I didn't really know what he looked like because I hadn't really seen him before. So
well, this also wasn't the first time we saw his face, because he did have to take his helmet off in the season 1 finale.
Yeah, but I don't think they showed his face though. His actual face.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, for a little bit.
Oh,
not an extended period of time.
It was when they were like holed up inside the, you know, like the cantina on Navarro, when Gideon's troops were attacking them from the outside. They basically said, I have to take your helmet off, otherwise, like, you know, you're gonna die or whatever. So they had to do something to treat him. So I mean, I knew what he looked like because I've seen Game of Thrones and a couple other things that he's been in and everything. Actually, it's funny, I just saw him in an episode of Law and Order from like 2007.
I saw that the other day. Actually, I kind of laughed about
it. It was kind of amazing how much younger he looked then already. But it's like, well, that was 13 years ago now. So, you know.
So we had that episode. That episode ended well. They get, you know, the coordinates and everything. And it was kind of cool because you see the character that Bill Burr plays shoot that guy like right in the chest because he's so pissed because he was one of the Imperials that just was like, what we're doing is fucking wrong, man. We are not on the right side of this. Like, he was one of the ones that had the conscience and said we're on the wrong side and defected after that one battle, which evidently the story that we get to hear during that episode, it was a pretty horrific thing. Like, they were killing women and children and shit like that, and like just doing some terrible stuff, which we know that's from Star Wars. That's what the you know, the not the Imperials. I mean, they call them Imperials in the Mandalorian, but they were, you know, the boy, I can't think of the fucking my brain just went dead. What were they in Star Wars, the original trilogy? They were the Empire. That's what the Empire was doing. You know, they were just terrible things. So
Yeah, and the guy who played his old commanding officer there, I can't remember the actor's name now, but he was like the first version of the Night King on Game of Thrones, but he played Joe Chill in Batman Begins, and he was also in Doom with The Rock. He's been in a lot of other stuff too. Those are just some things that I know that he was in that I know we've seen. So, but yeah, the fact that Bill Burr's character, Mayfield, just kind of loses it, I guess, because the guy's totally unapologetic about the atrocities that they committed and everything. The fact that Mayfield's just willing to just blow him away and risk it is kind of cool about, and obviously it makes for some exciting fight scenes there as they try to get away and everything. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the other interesting thing we were talking about, because you're talking about him taking his helmet off and everything, I don't know if they were abundantly clear about this or not, but it's like when he takes his helmet off, it's like the Imperial terminal scans his face and is like, okay. Now, maybe I have to go back and watch that episode again, but I really can't remember if they said that just so long as it scans a face, that's all it needs, or if it has to recognize the face. Because if it has to recognize the face and it goes through and everything, then that opens up a little bit more about his backstory or what he might have been doing prior to when the series began. Did he work for the Imperials at some point? I mean, it was left a little vague, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't know if you guys have a different opinion or not, but that's kind of the way I interpreted it.
I think it was basically his face had to be scanned, but you couldn't be registered as someone that that they were looking for, or because they had thought he was dead, so he couldn't get his face scanned because believe they thought he was dead or something like that. So it would have triggered an alert,
or just so long as it didn't come up as like rebellion
wanted
person, like. It's like, okay, that's not Luke Skywalker. That's not Han Solo. That's not that one Wookiee,
Yeah. I think the best part of that whole episode was cool, but the very end was the badass shit. Mandalorian pretty much tell him off Gideon, bitch, I know where you're at now, and I'm coming for you. Like, I'm coming for the child, and you're not going to stop me.
Yeah. No,
that just left the excitement for that just set up the last episode and was like, all right, what are we going to get in this last episode?
Yeah. Little did we know.
Little
did we know.
It's the promo on the Go Home show for WrestleMania. It's like, I'm taking this Sunday, I'm taking your title.
And we got the best ending possible this time. So WrestleMania doesn't always end the right way.
Yes. So that does lead us to episode 8. Before we continue, don't leave at this time. You got to stay tuned because we're almost to Mount Rushmore for The Mandalorian. All right. So, and I'm going to let AJ take the wheel in just a second, but episode 8 is fucking awesome because there are so many good things that happen in it, but it really comes down to the final scene of that episode, which makes that episode just over the top awesome. So AJ, take it away. Tell us about that final scene.
I mean, we were all watching. I mean, even you.
I surprised the shit out of you guys.
Even actually watched it on time for once.
Doesn't watch stuff. Just so you guys know on here, the three of us were trying to plot against Jim. He never watches it the first day. So we had come up with the most ridiculous thing we could come up with to say happened just to mess with them. So Pat said something about them cloning Jar Jar Binks. Said something about them cloning Jar Jar Binks. And then Jeremy's like, what are you talking about? I watched it. It was awesome. And I'm like, me and Joe were playing along. And Jeremy's like, you thought the episode was terrible? I'm like, no. I called Jeremy and be like, no, we were playing along with the joke. So Jeremy threw a monkey wrench in everything because he actually watched the episode. I'm glad he did because that you would have seen spoilers if you hadn't watched that show by Sunday. Like everybody that watched that show was like, holy shit. I called my brothers. I'm like, you got to watch it now. Watch it right now. Drop whatever you're doing. because Star Wars fans rejoiced.
Yeah, I remember texting my younger sister, and I'm like, look, I know you and my brother-in-law try to watch it at a certain time or whatever. I don't know if you're watching this with the kids or not, but I'm like, you need to watch this as soon as possible. Otherwise, there's no way you're not going to avoid the spoilers.
Yes.
So
go ahead, AJ.
When
Take
we
it
saw
away.
that X-wing, we all started thinking. We all started thinking, okay,
who the fuck is this gonna be?
We might know who this is going to be.
I mean, when he was going through, I was thinking, well, it could be Ezra. I said, but I mean, I've seen the rumors. I just think it has to be. And then as soon as you see, the gloved hand and the green lightsaber, you're just basically waiting at that point. I mean, you pretty much know who it's going to be. You're just waiting for it to get to that point.
It was very, and I saw somebody put a top down, and up and a bottom, and it was Darth Vader at the end of Rogue One and Luke Skywalker at the end of this, just tearing through people, and it was very fun watching him destroy all these dark troopers.
I know.
Yeah, I definitely think they very much did that as kind of like an intentional parallel, saying like,
they did.
Rogue One, the hallway scene, that's Vader at the height of his powers. Let's now, because we never really got to see it, let's show Luke at the height of his powers. So that's really, I think, what it was. So
and he cut through those dark troopers like fucking butter. It was like fucking butter.
Right. that was kind of the whole point. I mean, again, there was so much good about that episode. Like, he gets he gets the band back together as a will because he gets Bo-Katan and Casca. He's got Kara. He's got Boba Fett and Fennec and everything. So they have this whole crew of badasses, really.
And they made the women. They put the spotlight on the women even at one point in that, where the women were kicking ass.
Yeah,
yes, they were.
But then they show that even they are no match for the Dark Troopers, because it takes him so much effort just to kill one of them.
Yes,
and it's finally because he's able to take that Beskar spear and jam it into the thing's neck. Basically, that finally fries it. And it's like you think he'd got rid of all the other ones because he ejects them from the ship, but no, these are Dark Troopers, and they don't have to breathe, so they can
they can fly.
They've got little rocket boosters in their feet, so they all come zooming back to the goddamn ship. So yeah, it looks like that they're totally screwed.
At one point, there was a point there where I really thought that we were going to see Grogu do something. Like, I thought maybe we were going to see him unleash his powers. That's what I was thinking was going to happen. I'm much happier with what happened. But watching at the time, that's the thought. Okay, Grogu's going to rip some shit up here, probably.
And my favorite Dark Trooper to die and be destroyed was the one where he crushes him. He's like,
yes, that's the one that I think is the most relevant out of all of them that died, because it's cool. He kicked all their asses and destroyed them, like the whole concept.
Mm-hmm.
But that last one that he just destroys with the Force. Like, the first time you ever see him, you read it in books, but the first time you ever see him do that in an actual a live TV show, you don't see him do that in Return of the Jedi. That's actually it's you see, and he's doing it with his glove hand. I think he did it with his glove hand, so it's kind of like he's using some real Force powers, and it's like the glove resembling Darth Vader, using the Force to crush people and choke people out and destroy things. So it was really cool to see how they went about doing that. That was good stuff.
And they
writing.
They had to de-age Mark Hamill's face to make him look younger. They couldn't use him now. I was okay with that. I know the nitpick people were complaining about that, but it was fine.
The CG was what
okay.
It was.
It wasn't great, right. But it was good enough.
Yeah, it's certainly something that they haven't really perfected yet, especially when it comes to them, having mouths move with it. It's like when their mouths start moving. That seems to be the thing that I think throws a lot of people. But when we first showed up, because there was rumors about Sebastian Stan maybe playing it and everything, I was trying to figure out. I'm like, wait a minute, is that Hamill? Is that Sebastian Stan? I was the fact that it had me guessing, didn't really bother me, actually, because I thought that actually just added to it.
I mean, we knew it was him, but it was still really cool when we saw his face. Like, we all got super excited. We all nutted in our pants completely at that point, probably. So,
his voice, his CGI face, so it's fine.
Yeah, it was absolutely fine.
And
it was really.
And then when R2 shows up and he's all like excited to see the baby,
that was cool.
Grogu. Mm-hmm. It was funny, but at the same time, it's like R2D2 sees like a miniature Yoda. You would think that R2D2 would go running and hiding, looking for cover, So,
and the other cool thing that happened at the end is who ends up with the dark saber? The Mandalorian.
So,
and he tries to give it to Bo-Katan, and she's like,
"No, I'm
not taking that shit."
And then Gideon's just laughing his ass off about it.
Because he knows
he's got to win it from you. And now, of course, there's some controversy about that, saying that that had never really been depicted as such previously, and that in like Rebels, Sabine gave it to Bo-Katan, I think it was.
Yeah, under different circumstances, though, because originally she wouldn't take it from her because it was, I have to defeat you in battle. It's more to it than just giving it to somebody.
Yeah.
So those people that are nitpicking that shit apart, relax, people, relax. Okay.
Right. Well, because the thing of it is, Grogu's going off with Luke, and God only knows if we'll ever see Grogu again. I would have to think at some point we do.
He's their money maker. So I feel like
exactly. But then so the most immediate thing becomes, so where do they go with the series from here? And it would seem very likely that it has to center around him allying himself, I guess you could say, with Bo-Katan in order to retake Mandalore. But obviously we also know there's going to be the conflict there about the ownership of Darksaber. So it's like they have to work together, and it's like he doesn't want it, she does, but she won't just take it from him or accept it from him. So it's going to lead to some problems and everything. So it is very interesting. It is interesting to see where they go with it from here. Obviously, does that mean does Sasha have to find more time to break away from WWE to be available for filming? And
plus we got the teaser at the end.
Well, I was getting to that, but and the thing of it is too, of course, Moff Gideon is obviously still there, so they haven't. While he may be neutralized in a way, and because Cara Dune can just easily turn him right over to the Republic and everything, he is still out there. So he's not just going to disappear. He's still going to cover over the premises.
Yes. So the episode ends and you're watching the credits and you're like, and I usually don't stick around for the credits, but all this, I was just like, yeah, that was really cool. I'm like, just thinking about how awesome the episode is. And all of a sudden, dun, 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 the credits stop rolling and we get a little sneak peek.
Yes. We see Jabba's palace.
And I was like, oh shit, Jabba's palace. And it was very eerie because it was very much like how Luke entered Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
And it was, I was like, this is awesome because you see who's in charge of Jabba's palace, which was kind of funny to see who was in charge of it. I was like, this guy's a punk.
Yeah.
And you see him die pretty quick.
It's Bib Fortuna plus about 100 pounds from when we last saw him in
so Bib was working his way to turning into Jabba the Hutt.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
clearly
now we get the spin-off of Boba Fett's series. So it'll be interesting where they go with that. So we know there's going to be quite a few spin-offs and different shows that happen from this. So it's going to be pretty awesome. But overall, season 2, another fantastic season of The Mandalorian. There was nothing that I could say about that I actually think that season overall was better than the first season, which is usually.
I agree.
Oh God, by far, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't usually happen like that. Normally seasons either stay the same or they go down just a little bit. This was actually better than the first season, which was really cool.
Well, it's what's also very interesting, I guess you could say, about it is just how well received this series has been from a critical standpoint. It's like, this isn't just like, fan service for Star Wars fans and everything. The first season was nominated for Best Drama at the Emmys. The second season, just this past week, was nominated for Best Drama Series at the Golden Globe Awards. So it's become like a, prestige drama series already.
Mhm.
And that, even like, award shows that are, generally very snooty are recognizing it. Even if it doesn't win, it's like, and it didn't win the Emmy. I would be surprised if it wins the Golden Globe, but the Golden Globes are weird, so they could. It just
because it got nominated first off. I mean,
yeah,
shit.
just the simple fact that it's getting nominated when it is such a genre show, because like sci-fi, fantasy, that kind of stuff,
Yes.
usually is ignored by award shows, whether it's the Oscars, the Emmys, whatever. Just the fact that it's getting nominated is really telling you something about the show's quality, and it's not just like Star Wars fans that are saying that it's a great show and everything. And the best thing to me is that I can't say that I've ever not been entertained by the show through the first 16 episodes. Right. It's consistently been entertaining. So obviously some episodes haven't been as good as others, but for the most part, it's been very solid. It's been like I said, Jon Favreau deserves a shit ton of credit. The fact that he brought in good writers, good directors, obviously been a big help. The show's been cast well. So, everything I think has been really good about it. And I wanted to touch on this. We talked about it before, about how much credit Favreau deserves. A lot of people online are basically saying, just let Favreau and Filoni like run Star Wars from now on, because of the disappointing reaction that people had to the sequels and the perception that Kathleen Kennedy doesn't know what she's doing. I want to call out another Lucasfilm executive. I don't know if you guys saw this story, but after people were having the reaction to the Luke scene in the season 2 finale, a popular thing, I guess, because we live on the internet now, is whereas people like posting like their reaction videos to it and everything. And there were some people who were getting like emotional over seeing young Luke Skywalker again and seeing Luke Skywalker in action. And this Lucasfilm executive named Pablo Hidalgo was openly mocking people for getting emotional over the Luke Skywalker scene.
And see, that's somebody who shouldn't be involved with any kind of Star Wars because they don't get it.
Right. Even throw out all that stuff though too. Throw out like you're emotionally connected to this character who debuted on film screens in 1977 and every other damn thing. You are somebody who works as an executive for the company that produces this show, and you are mocking the people who watch the show for having an emotional reaction to the show.
That's what you want out of your fans.
Exactly.
He was legit making fun of them.
Making fun of people for having an emotional attachment to the content that you're producing. You're basically saying, yeah, I know I work for the company that produces the show, but if you're reacting strongly to it, you're a fucking idiot. How the fuck does this guy have a job with this company? If this guy
not very long.
I don't know if anything's happened to him, but basically it's like, if this guy has any kind of real power making decisions for everything, he really better not. And I would really hope the fact that he did it so publicly and that people are also rightly calling him out for it, somebody higher up at Lucasfilm, or if not Lucasfilm, then at Disney, kind of goes, get the fuck out of here. Yeah, I mean, there's no way this guy should be working for this company if he's going to basically mock the people who watch the content produced by it. So yeah, get rid of it.
And there is Darth Pat's emotional response to that jackass.
That's right. Yeah. You don't fuck with your fan base, God damn it.
Wow, that might be the most emotion Pat showed ever.
All right, so that does bring us to the.
You weren't in my garage Wednesday afternoon around 1 o'clock.
No, I mean on the podcast, Pat.
Oh,
hey, all right, stop interrupting me, God damn it.
I'll interrupt you all I want.
This does bring us to almost the very end of our show, since it is that time. It is time for Mount Rushmore. So our Mount Rushmore today, of course, is based on The Mandalorian. And with that, we're going to pick our favorite character from either season 1 or season 2. It does not matter. It can be from either season. But I'm going to start it off with Darth Pat.
Yeah, well, you got to leave the rules, though. It can't be the child.
Okay,
or the...
yes. There is a rule. There is 2 small rules, and that is you cannot pick Mando and you cannot pick the child. So for everybody that's watching, whenever you're watching this, leave a comment. Who was your favorite character from the Mandalorian season, minus Mando or the child? Because we know those are kind of just givens. Those 2 characters were pretty awesome. So leave a comment. We'd like to know what your thoughts are as far as your favorite character from the series. So I'm going to go to Darth Pat. And Darth Pat, all I want is the name and a quick, 2 minutes of why you believe that, this was your favorite character, because your character had a very small role, very important, but very
Getting
small
the timer
role.
out, bro.
So
I'm this shit.
So I am ready to share, because I want to share the picture. When you're ready, go ahead. So I'll share out this person's picture here in just a moment. Go ahead, Darth Pat.
Okay, so my favorite character, and yes, he was only unfortunately in a couple episodes in season 1, was Werner Herzog's character, the Client, as he was called. Mostly because it was played by Werner Herzog, and it's just kind of funny to think Werner Herzog acted in a Star Wars role. But also because he had a couple of really great lines, that really made him sound sinister and creepy at the same time. When he goes, now I would like to see the baby. It's just very creepy the way he says it. And it's like, at that point, you're like, what do they want with the kid and everything? So, and it's just very, very funny. And Werner Herzog also appeared in one of the last episodes of Parks and Recreation, where he's like selling his house to Chris Pratt and Audrey Plaza's characters. And he gives a line where he's like, after 47 years of living here, I've decided to move to Orlando so that I can be closer to Disney World. And then the fact that Star Wars is now owned by Disney, it just kind of makes that line funnier for me in retrospect. But so I just think, sure. He just he has a lot of really good lines. He gets to say them, in a very kind of cool, sinister, evil manner. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see more of him, but there we go.
And you guys could see the picture that I shared out, right? Yeah. Okay, I just want to make sure that worked right. All right. Let's go to AJ. Go ahead, AJ.
I'm just going to... Everybody would be disappointed if I didn't take Sasha Banks at this point, because that's what the expectation is. So I'm going to take Sasha Banks. So she's my favorite female wrestler of all time. So of course I'm going to take the character she plays. There's wrestling on Mandalorian. So,
which I must say, in this picture that I found, pretty awesome.
So
yeah, because she doesn't have blue hair.
It was a big deal when we saw her in the trailer at the beginning of the season. It was really because we knew we were going to see her. We already kind of knew she was going to be in it. So I was fine with the way they used her. So, and plus she made the tornado DDT cannon in Star Wars. So, and she got to get badass a couple times. She got to kick some people's ass. So
yeah, she had a couple lines, and I think she did well with her lines. It wasn't like she was robotic or anything like that. So I think she did very well.
And I think we'll see her again.
We'll see I believe so too.
I mean, again, the way they ended the season and everything, it would be very hard for her to not come back unless again there was an availability thing. But I think I'm sure they'll let her film again. And hey, if not, she can say, hey, I was there in that scene when Luke Skywalker came back.
And all right, part of Star Wars canon now.
All right, I'm gonna go next, and I'll leave Theo for last because Theo's really excited about his pick, so I'm gonna let him go last.
I mean, obviously, for those who know.
So I am going to pick my man Bill Burr, who I know some people are probably like, why Bill Burr? Well, because I really think Bill Burr's character, which was that's terrible. I can't even think of his
Mayfeld.
Yeah, Mayfeld. They always called him Mayfeld. They never called him Miggs. But his character was just awesome. And like I alluded to this before, that it was kind of funny that they left him with his Bostonian accent. But I just because he had a little bit of humor to him. He had a little bit of realism in the fact that he was an Imperial. You know, he was a sharpshooter at one point in time. He had a conscience, and he was only in 2 episodes, just like Darth Pat's character. Two episodes, but he made such an impact because of the character that he was. And like I said, I like the fact that he brought some humor to it with his character, especially in the scene where they're, you know, driving those canisters. He was pretty darn funny in that, especially his interaction with the Mandalorian. He's like, you really don't want people to see your face. He's like, you really got to think about them helmets.
Yeah.
So that's why he was definitely my favorite, one of my favorite characters. All right, Theo, you're up, sir.
So my first pick would have been Cara Dune if the other one was not in season 2. But since she was in season 2, Ahsoka is my number 1 pick. Not just because Rosario Dawson played her, but just like Thrawn is for people and like Boba Fett is for people. Ahsoka has been one of those people, and she has a huge following too. You know, she was created for the animated show. I liked her character through Clone Wars. I read her book. I thought it was a good book. The Rebels animated show, you know, they did really good, you know, backstories and going through everything with that. And just to bring it to live action is for a lot of fans, you know, geek out. It's really cool. It's cool to see that. I'm excited for the series she's going to have, because I know it's going to tie into Thrawn, and that's going to bring another big thing into the Star Wars live action shows that people are going to geek out for. Plus, you know, some Rebel stuff, as I'm hoping for Ezra, Sabine, you know, wherever those crazy whales are took them. I don't know. I'm just looking forward to some backstory and some finalization of some of that stuff and see where they go with it. I don't know. Maybe we might get some other Jedis that they might introduce in her series too. You never know. Yeah. So it's
maybe some of the ones from the video game that came, Fallen Order, not Fallen Order.
Fallen Order.
Fallen Order. Yeah. So maybe we'll get some of those. Who knows? All right. So that is our awesome Mount Rushmore. And I'm just going to share this out real quick. And that is our Mount Rushmore for this week. And that is Sasha Banks' character as a Mandalorian.
Casca Reeves. Thank you. Cause I'll never remember these names.
I won't either.
Mayfield, Ahsoka Tano, and the client there. So that is our Mount Rushmore. Pretty cool Mount Rushmore. I mean, we really do love.
None of them look happy, so that's cool.
No smiles on their faces. That's awesome.
So I'll tell you what, there isn't a lot of pictures with any of those people smiling. So
they're like those characters.
Everybody's so serious in this damn show. But that is our show. It was awesome being able to talk about this. I hope everybody that gets a chance to listen to this, whenever you get a chance to listen or watch this, you enjoy it just as much as we did. And I guess that leaves us to the end of our show. I don't know if we'll go live again or if we're going to record it or what, but we will be back next week for sure. So until then, we're going to say good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and we'll catch you on the next